Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole. This is another one of our weekly congressional chats about what Congress is and is not doing at a particular time. It's actually been a fairly busy week, but not all the things that we're dealing with on the floor are substantive of some of the things that are being negotiated behind the scenes. But let's talk first about what happened on the floor. Congress this week actually focused in terms of floor activity on trying to correct some Biden administration regulation overreach. I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a Buy American provision in the law that means when we're using federal dollars, we should buy money or buy things from American contractors. The Biden administration is trying to loosen that requirement when it comes to purchasing things that deal with electric vehicles, recharging centers. Right now, a lot of the basic product for those sorts of things come from China. We're trying to limit our dependence on China. These requirements would force us to buy only American things. That slows the process down because we don't produce as many batteries or as many things related to electric vehicles as China does. But it's the right thing to do if we're going to subsidize this. And I have some questions about that, but if we ought to do it in ways that help American manufacturers and create American jobs, not things that simply funnel more money to China. So we dealt with and passed a piece of legislation to overturn a Biden administration effort to lower the requirements on American-made products. We also had a number of other issues this week that were more or less regulatory in nature. But the big issue of the week, honestly, was the continued negotiations on the top lines of appropriations bill. A deal was announced between the Speaker, the Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, and the administration on a new top line spending number. It's about $16 billion lower than the previous agreement. That is, we took some money that had been previously appropriated for COVID that had not been spent and took it off the table. And we took some money that had been previously appropriated for the IRS and was going to be probably eliminated in 2025 to pull it back to 24. So it's not a major difference over the Fiscal Responsibility Act that was negotiated several months ago, but it's a little bit better deal for the American people. It lowers spending somewhat. Now, there's going to be enormous controversies as we try to negotiate a deal. As you know, federal government funding runs out a week from Friday. On January the 19th for 4 different departments, and then on February 2nd for the remaining 8 different areas of appropriations activity. There's no way we can get the appropriation bills done in that time frame because the top line number took so long to be negotiated and agreed upon by all the parties. So my guess is next week we will see at some point a short-term continuing resolution that just simply keeps things moving on as they are. We want to end this as quickly as possible because what we appropriate will actually be less money than we're spending today. So the quicker Congress can come to a deal, the more money, honestly, we will save, and the better we will spend the money that we actually appropriate. So we certainly want to get that done. So it's these negotiations, I think, on the appropriations bills that are most important. There's also a negotiation going on. James Lankford came over to the House Study Committee this week to talk about it. As you know, the study committee is headed by Kevin Hern from Tulsa. It's the largest caucus in the House of Representatives, has about 170 members. And Senator Lankford came over to give us an update on his negotiation on enhanced border security. I was encouraged by what he had to say. I think he's driving a really hard and good bargain if James Lankford comes to me and says, I think these things will make a material difference on the border, I believe him because I think he's mastered the subject, done a good job. So Congress may, in the relatively near future, pass that. Now, it will be part of a large military aid package, some of which is not controversial, some of which is. We would provide substantial funding for Israel. That's not very controversial for most of Congress. There would be some resistance. We would provide some money for Taiwan and our own forces in the Western Pacific. That's not too controversial. We all see China as saber rattling in the Western Pacific. And what is controversial would be a substantial amount of money, probably in the range of $60 billion for Ukraine, which is locked in a life and death struggle with Russia. Not everybody supports that, to be honest. I certainly do. I think these are brave people defending themselves and, frankly, inflicting enormous damage on the Russian military and ought to be supported. They're getting more support right now from Europe than they are from the United States. That's as it should be, but it does tell you we're not the only ones involved in trying to help Ukraine. There's tens of billions of dollars from Europe, also billions of dollars from Japan and other countries in other parts of the world. It's an effort to help a country that's defending its borders against a pretty brutal invasion by the Russians to do it. The idea is if we can stop them here, we won't have aggression against NATO countries, and we're less likely to end up in some sort of nose-to-nose confrontation with a great nuclear power. So I think it's money well spent, but I have no doubt there'll be a serious discussion about that when and if the time comes. But if we also get border security with it, or better border security, that'll be a good thing. And Senator Langford's been a leader on that, and frankly has my thanks for taking on such a difficult issue. So with that, again, I expect we'll have much more to talk about next week because, government funding runs out the 19th. Something will have to be done on that. There's discussions and negotiations going on. I'm never in favor of shutting down the government. It's not a good thing to do. It's disruptive. It's unfair to people, particularly to our soldiers, men and women in uniform, our civilian federal workforce. I just don't think those folks should need to worry about getting their paychecks. And I don't see what good comes from shutting down the government. I've never seen it achieve any particular objective, but not everybody sees the world that way. We're going to be working to make sure the government stays open and to make sure Republicans and Democrats in Congress do their job. And that is actually pass the appropriations bills that will fund the government for the rest of the fiscal year, which runs through September 30th, and then we'll go from there. With that, again, I hope you and your family had a wonderful holiday. I hope you have a blessed and very prosperous new year. And I look forward to continuing to chat with you on a weekly basis as we go forward. So good luck, God bless, and I'll talk to you next week.